Hey, is this work? Can you guys hear me?
Hello. Oh, there we go. All right. How's everybody doing today? Good. Good? Awesome. How's everybody doing today? All right. Awesome. First of all, how about thank you very much, Gislin and the Minnesota Craft Cannabis Guild. Right? Thank you very much, Gislin and the MNWCC. I think I got the right acronym there. So everybody, thank you very much. We're going to talk about equity in this industry. How do we build an industry the proper way? How do we build an industry in a way in which everybody gets to take part in the industry, that wants to take part in the industry, and the industry reflects what the plant reflects, which is a lot of inclusivity and opportunity, right? So before we do that, jump into the actual panel here. I'm going to introduce our panelists in just a second. We kind of are going with a little bit of an ad lib here because I saw my guy Chris over here with Cova back there, and I was like, I got to take this opportunity because Chris and Cova have been big supporters of us, MCBA. I should have introduced myself, actually. My name is Mike Lomuto. I'm the chairman of the board for the Minority Cannabis Business Association. We're a national association that does a lot of workshops and community building all across the country. Cova and Chris and his team have been some great supporters of that, not only, of course, in sponsoring, but also in showing up and coming out and being there to help provide education and conversation and network for all the folks that we do these workshops with. And so I just wanted to say, bring you up here because I saw you over there. I was like, Chris, can you just come up here for a second and just say a couple words about, why it's been important and what's been great about going across the country with us on the tour, what's great about Minnesota and what you see like as far as community building goes, how things are going to be set up equitably here. So any of that you want to address here, I know I kind of threw a lot of stuff at you there, Chris, but here you go.
Well, thanks a lot, Mike. I appreciate it. And first of all, congratulations to Minnesota in the legality of cannabis in the state. It's a long time overdue, and I'm happy that you have it. Congratulate yourselves. What an opportunity, and how exciting to be here and talking about cannabis openly, right? We do it on the backs of a lot of people who have lost their livelihoods because of doing exactly what we're here promoting right now. Right, a lot of people have lost their lives while in prison. A lot of people have lost the ability to support and spend time with their families. A lot of communities have been fractured. A lot of the enforcement of these policies have been inequitable. Right? A lot of people have been disadvantaged further than other people. And it's important to acknowledge that because we have an opportunity to do something restorative here. So when we talk about the importance of social equity programs, when we talk about the importance of inclusivity, when we talk about the importance of equity, it's about creating a level playing field. It's about giving people an opportunity to create generational wealth for themselves as well. It's about giving opportunities to people who haven't had as many, right? It's about using cannabis as a way to accomplish that while serving communities with a plant that matters, right? With a plant that heals, with a plant that has potential that we're only just now starting to research to the extent that it deserves, right? So in order for equity to happen, enablement and community have to happen, right? We have to invest in people. We have to put aside ego sometimes and look for ways to create teams out of people who maybe didn't get a license, but also have a lot to offer. Right, and so I think that it's really important for us to have these kinds of events that facilitate that community and allow people to connect with each other in a meaningful way. And Cova's just happy to participate. And we've had a lot of experience in this space. We've launched over 2,000 dispensaries across North America, and we've learned a lot of what works and a lot of what doesn't. And we're happy to offer expertise and information, knowledge where we can. So appreciate the opportunity to talk, and congrats, Mike, on everything you've accomplished and will continue to do.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate you, man. Awesome. So now, how about Chris? Thank you. Now I have the absolute pleasure to introduce three people here who are trailblazing. We're doing a lot of amazing work here. I'm going to start over here on this end with Marcus Harcus. Marcus, just the work that you've done on the north side here and in the community and in the city. You told an amazing and powerful story recently at our Green Equity event. It was incredible. Veronika, you did as well. Veronika, founder of the Minnesota Women's Cannabis Collective. I think I got that right? Yeah, absolutely. And MiSotaEssence, I want to say? MiSota, sorry. All right, there we go. So thank you for being here. And then Christine, I know we haven't really gotten to meet much, but thank you so much for being here. Pezi, one of the, again, a trailblazer in this industry, what you all are doing, so thank you for being here. So with that said, I'm going to let you all introduce yourselves, but with a question specifically. The question is, how do we, or I don't want to say how do we, because that's like too big of a question, right? But what is an important way, like why is it important to have this conversation in the first place? Why is it important, why do we appreciate the ability to have a conversation about equity in the industry at something such as the Legacy Cup here in the first place? So if you could introduce yourselves and answer that question as to why it's so important to have this conversation in the first place. Who wants to start?
Awesome. Hey, my name is Veronika Alfaro, and I am the founder of Minnesota Women's Cannabis Collective, and I'm also the founder of MiSotaEssence, and we're the first Latina-owned cannabis company in the legal space here. And I like to say legal space because there's a space before us, right? This whole underground market and where this legacy really started. And so I want to make sure I'm paying that forward and understanding that it was there and acknowledging that. And so yeah, that's just a little bit about me really quickly, and we can pass it on.
Good afternoon. Peace. So my name is Harcus. I am Harcus, and I lobbied for legalization for 9 years, 2014 to 2 years ago. And all throughout that time, people were commonly acknowledging how prohibition was racist. It was the disproportionate arrest of black people. But as soon as legalization comes, nobody is really interested in having an equitable legal market. We argued that we need legalization because prohibition is racist, but now we have a race-blind legalization model that will probably leave a lot of people behind. So it's important also because we advocated for a craft industry all these years, small businesses, and the MSOs have the advantages already. But so we need to be conscious as operators in the industry. We need to support other small businesses. We need to be intentional about diversifying our workforces, and we need to be conscious as consumers. Like we shouldn't support the MSO dispensaries, frankly. Support your neighbor, your real neighbor, not Green Thumb's industry, So I'll stop rambling. It's important because the legacy market carried us for all these decades, and a lot of people from the legacy market actually get fucked over with legalization. That's a real problem that nobody talks about in public. But I would say if there's no good actors in your community with these MSOs or just unethical cannabis business owners, continue to support your local plug.
Hi, I'm Christine Bordenave. I'm the Director of Operations for CBH Inc. We are a wholly owned Indigenous enterprise. We have seed to sale on tribal lands, including cultivation, manufacturing, distribution, and retail at Island Pezi down in Welsh. Just very proud to be a part of the tribal market and to support other tribes in transporting products to other locations and supporting other brands on our shelves. And just really think that it's important to make sure that all groups are represented, and we do really proudly support minority-owned, Indigenous-owned brands in our store, and hope to continue that mission as the market progresses.
Thank you. I've got a couple different things I definitely want to touch base on here today. First thing, I'm just going to jump right to, because we were having a conversation, me and Veronika earlier, about something that I think is actually very important, right? And also an important topic, a timely topic, not only an important topic, but a timely topic. And that's, making sure that we are including immigrants in this conversation, right? Immigrants and children of immigrants, right? Veronika, you had some thoughts on that I thought, some basic solutions, honestly, that could really change the game in a lot of different ways. So can you please speak on that?
Yeah. Yeah? Hello?
You can talk. Let me see.
Okay, yeah, so some really, really easy basic solutions into opening that market, into involving immigrants. I speak on this even as So I am first generation Mexican American. My dad is, both my parents actually are both from Mexico. And my dad just got his citizenship. And that just happened in November. And I sat in on his citizenship. And there was over like 500 to 1,000 people getting naturalized. And I say this because unfortunately in cannabis is still federally illegal. So that means you, as someone who doesn't have a U.S. citizenship, essentially cannot participate in the market. And so when you think of that, that closes certain doors. But there's still all these people that are being naturalized that are able to participate in this market, and we're not really opening those doors. And some really basic, easy solutions is put the application in different languages. Like literally put it in Somalian, Spanish, and we can open up a diverse market that is really needed in our space, because that's how we create an inclusive market. That's also how we create an equitable market. I mean, that's how we create community. And that's really what the plant is about. It's about community. That's where it started and where it needs to go, and we need to keep thinking about that as we grow through all of this in this legal market, because capitalism will want to come take, and we'll be knocking at that door, but at the end of the day, it has a lot of love, you guys. So much love.
Thank you. That's an important message, especially in today's climate. Marcus, something that stood out to me, and I've tried to quote you, but I don't do as good a job, of course, of saying as you do. When we did the storytelling symposium recently, you talked about the way that the community has had your back recently, right? And that's a large part, of course, because you've had the community's back for so long, right? We don't get to legal cannabis, adult use cannabis, if Marcus, like you specifically, as well as other colleagues of yours, did not make the push that you made, right, in the first place. But as you mentioned, things now that they're rolling out are not rolling out the way we'd like to see them necessarily, right? So what are some of your solutions? What are your thoughts on how we make sure the community stays rooted in cannabis? Because, I'm just going to say this clearly, is that adult use cannabis from state to state has practically been a takeover of corporations taking the cannabis industry into their clutches rather than everywhere else it's been in the community. So for you, you're here on the ground in Minnesota, you were part of writing that law. Like, what are your solutions now based on the current situation, how we get further?
Well, the Minnesota Cannabis College is going to train like 100 people, and we're going to be it's open to anyone, but we're going to be very intentional about seeking out people who might otherwise get left behind. So we're going to do commercial cultivation training and cannabis retail. But for me, the only thing we can do is build community. And community doesn't have to be thousands of people. It can be a few people. It could be a few dozen. If we had like 50 Minnesota cannabis companies that are really about equity and really about craft cannabis, we can influence the direction of the market. We can influence, the equitable hiring. We can ensure that the small businesses can not only survive but thrive. There's going to be a lot of failures like any industry, but the cannabis community needs to support small craft cannabis. They need to support diverse cannabis businesses intentionally, and then we can have some equity for real. It's really on us. The government is not going to be capable of it.
What you just said right there was powerful as hell. You said it doesn't need to be thousands always, right? We always think of community has to be, no, it starts with a handful. It starts with a group of small people that really believe passionately about something that work together collaboratively. So thank you, Marcus, that's amazing. So Christine. Now Christine, I don't know you that well yet. I'm hoping that we get to know each other really well soon enough. Because what you guys are doing, again, like I said, you're trailblazing. And you're doing it in such a way where, I think that what you're doing and setting up here can be a model for a lot of other states, right, around the country. So my question for you is, like, in the journey, in the path, what's happened so far to get from the place of, not having tribal cannabis, right, to now where you all are getting established here, right? You're definitely featured here at the Legacy Cup in an amazing way, right? what would you give as, I don't know if advice is the right word, but what do you think is, why has it been working, and what can we learn from that to figure out how to continue to build collaboratively and cooperatively?
I think one word that we've focused on a lot in the development of our organization is intentionality, and just making sure that we're putting our feet down in a shorter footer place. We want to make sure that what we're doing, we're thinking through it, understanding all the factors and all the viewpoints, and trying to make smart decisions so we don't have to go backwards just to go forward again. And I think we also lean a lot on relationships, knowing good people, knowing people in the industry, and learning from ourselves and learning from others as well. It's important to have those strong relationships with people who have been there, who do have experience, but also who are also trailblazers, like the people I'm sitting up here with. Creating good relationships and having this community is so important for us to be able to move forward, so we can share information, share what worked, share what didn't, share resources, and that's important too, because we're all in this together.
Absolutely. I love it. Intentionality. That should be like the word of the year right here, I think. Yeah. Intentionality, word of the year, right? So with that said, I want to follow up on a couple of things that you both mentioned. So Marcus, you mentioned the Minnesota Cannabis College. Could you speak a little bit more about that? Because I love that when I asked you what is the solution, you gave a concrete, we're about to do this. We're about to launch classes in this specific area, right? That's a concrete thing that everybody here can actually plug into, right? So can you tell us a little bit more about the Minnesota Cannabis College, what you guys are doing, what you're about?
Thank you. So in 2020, me and my friend Tanner Barris, we sat down out at this park and talked about creating a nonprofit organization, because we knew that the state was proposing partnerships with community organizations. And as far as we could see, there were none in Minnesota that were providing cannabis education. So we formed this organization proactively because we knew ultimately the state was going to be looking for partners. And we're not charlatans. So we provided a whole bunch of, we've organized a lot of forums to educate people while the legislation was actually momentous, before it passed. And because before that we were organizing people to contact legislators and educate legislators. But now we're trying to educate the workforce, people who want to make this part of their career. Maybe this is their calling, cannabis is their calling, and they want to professionalize it. We're looking for the people who, are just as impacted, are from communities of color, are poor people. I mean, everybody's welcome, but that's why some of our stuff is sliding scale is free, because we want this to be accessible. But yeah, we're just a nonprofit, Minnesota nonprofit. We have a dream team. Dr. Dabs, Clement Dabney is going to be our instructor, PhD, cannabis genetics genomics. We have a brilliant team. We're pretty well connected in the cannabis community. We've been doing forums and podcasts and cultivation trainings for a few years. So we know some of the best producers in the state. Everybody's got to build up their organizations. That's why we don't have enough flower out here yet, because people are still getting their money together. They're still putting their facilities. Some people are still looking for property, and a lot of us are trying to raise their money. But yeah, the Cannabis College is just a way to connect, to build community, and to help intentionally diversify the workforce and support these small micro business license owners who need help in learning the compliance and stuff, and need help getting connected to other suppliers. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm rambling.
I don't think you're ever rambling, man. I love listening to you talk. I love what you guys are doing. When I saw that Minnesota Cannabis College was earned one of those grants from the state to do this kind of work, I'm so excited to see that. Because to your point, it's you guys doing this now. And you guys, I know, you have the integrity, you have community centered in everything you do. And that is what makes the difference, because coming back to what Christine said, that's the intentionality piece right there, right? Absolutely. And so, speaking again of, groups and formalizing things and doing it with intentionality, the first conversation I ever had here with you, Veronika, I was blown away. like the way that you had figured out how to bring together, what you've done. I mean, I'd love to hear you tell people about, the vision for the Minnesota Women's Cannabis Collective. What is the vision for that? Because I think it's a beautiful vision. So here you go.
Thank you. Yeah, so the Minnesota Women's Cannabis Collective is all about helping women show the fuck up. And I say that so boldly and so proudly because we're all about amplifying their voices. We are about creating that community. We're about using our resources, right? And today, for instance, even we are out here showcasing, doing a whole quest, Blazing Her Path quest. And it's showcasing women-owned companies and women-led companies and really showing them off in all these booths that you see here. But we're doing something that really helps amplify them and showing them off. The other thing is we started off here at Legacy Cup. So we're really trying to focus and helping build that community. I'm kind of rambling too, so let me focus that back on. So yeah, we're doing that, and we're doing that by doing networking. We're doing it by doing lunch and learns. We're doing it by really gathering and figuring out what is it that you need, right? And we're partnering with other people in the space to provide resources for you that are dedicated to women in the space. That's a big thing, because a lot of times when women businesses run leaner, they're smaller businesses, just like equitable businesses, just like any other small craft business, right? They do. So we need to all band together, and that means our organizations working together, and we're all our organizations working together, so that we can get wider reaches and really help each other, right? And the Craft Guild, yes. All of our organizations working together, so we have a powerful message.
No, I love that. And so, talking about working together, so one of the things, so shout out first of all to Rob Perro and Mary Jane Altman from the Indigenous Cannabis Industry Association, right? Two amazing trailblazers. Again, I think that's another word of today at least, right? Trailblazers, Mary Jane Altman and Rob Perro. One of the things when I started talking to Mary Jane a few years ago that I realized very quickly was how very little I knew and how very little most of the people that I knew about tribal cannabis and how tribes interact with the rest of us really at the end of the day. And a lot of times that leads to a siloing and even a certain type of angst between the different groups. And I think that when I look at things, I'm like, this should be the opposite. We should all be really figuring out how to work together. If we just, it's mostly because we don't operate under the same rules a lot of the time. But now here in Minnesota, you guys, again, like I said, are trailblazing and starting to say, okay, no, we're gonna operate in this lane here that's gonna work in this state in a way to be a model. So Christine, not that the whole pressure of how the things are gonna go in the rest of the country is gonna be on you guys here, but what is the vision for you, for Island Pezi, for the groups that you're working with, for the tribes? What is the vision and why is it so important that the tribes are at the forefront of this movement?
Yeah, I think it is very important to be trailblazers. Absolutely, we do want to show that being self-regulated, we can do the same as the state, if not more, do it better, put more thought into it, and we're not the only state that is involved in the tribal cannabis market, and so we're taking some of the learned lessons from other tribal nations and bringing that here. And so there's been a lot of research, a lot of information that's been shared to create the regulations that we have in place and make sure that we're following the processes and procedures that not only other tribal nations can take as a model, but the state can as well. We want to have those close relationships to be able to operate successfully. And so, having not knowing really how the world is going to go and how things are going to progress, we want to make sure that we're always ready and that we're always doing, the good, better, best that we can as a tribal market.
And you guys, if I'm not mistaken, you are working with social equity brands in the state, right? Could you speak a little bit to that and how that? I mean, again, that seems like a very intentional thing that you're doing in the first place. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, right now we are focusing on working with other tribal brands, other tribal groups and other nations. So we're trying to lean into that at this time. But as these other stores are developing, we do hope to really focus on working with those minority owners, those minority groups as well. When we have the ability to, right? We are still waiting on our compact, but I will say that in opening Island Pezi, we did also have some hemp brands on our shelves, and that's just to make sure that we were meeting the needs of our customers. And in reviewing those hemp brands, we did want to work with minority-owned, female-owned brands. We're really proud to have a lot of those, amazing brands on our shelves, like Slay Beverages, Dope Roots. And we're happy to still have them on our shelves. Dr. Scoden as well, hemp beverage that is Jamaican and indigenous owned. So really proud to have all of those different brands on our shelves and to continue to support them, as this market develops.
Absolutely. Slay Beverages, that's Calandra Redring, if I'm not mistaken, right? And shout out to Calandra, right? Absolutely. Another trailblazer here. Look, I think that when we're talking about community, we're talking about equity, these are the things we're talking about, right? We're not talking about, hey, let's just go create a social equity program and somebody gets a license first. That's the starting place. So, and that should be, it shouldn't even be the starting place. We should be way past that as the starting place, right? But as Marcus said earlier, we can't just rely on government to get the job done. When we talk about equity, we're talking about building structures around it. We're talking about people like Marcus building the college, right? Veronika building the Women's Cannabis Collective, right? Island Pezi, Christine, building these relationships and these networks and supporting different types of licensees everywhere, right? Doing things intentionally. The imperative I want to throw out to everybody here, the directive here, is that it's on all of us at the end of the day. If we are going to create this the way that we all, I don't know all, but many of us say we want to see this industry built, right? Because I go around all over the place, right? And I hear people constantly say, oh, I want to see the industry built equitably, so on and so forth. But then I notice a lot of people go back into their daily lives, and if it's not at your forefront, meaning you're not on the other side of the track, so to speak, you might go slip past your mind. The important thing here is, as we've heard, it doesn't take you having to change your entire everything you do. It takes just simply being intentional, plugging in with the right people, and being one of those people that raises your hand and says, yes, I want to do this in an equitable fashion, right? So with that in mind, my next question for you all here is, what is something that pretty much, and I know that we got a whole lot of people over at the we're all in the Legacies Cup, but what I mean is, we got, I don't know if Afroman is playing right now, but somebody was playing a little bit ago, and there's a lot of people watching that, right? What can we tell all of them, right? Because we are going to get this message out to everybody here, right? We're going to send these messages out. Thank you, I know this is being recorded here. What would you say to everybody that's enjoying the music, right? That is enjoying getting high together? What would you say to them? Something that each of them can do right now or next month, as well, just in this short period of time to help build a more equitable industry? I'm going to start with Marcus over here.
I mean, if people are high as hell, they may not want a deep conversation, but I just say be a conscious consumer. What you put in your body matters, sourcing matters, and if you want to see an equitable industry, support the right fucking businesses.
I would agree 100%. Be intentional with your buying dollars. That is how you get to choose. And if you don't see, ask. Which are these social equitable businesses? So we can really create a market that can start showing that, creating shelves that show that on there.
And I would say thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here and being a part of, a new moment and a new time in Minnesota cannabis history. And showing up is half the battle. Use your voice and don't be afraid to do that. And thank you for being here.
I love that. I'm going to piggyback off of what you just said. The history part of it. I think that recognize and be intentional about the fact that we're creating history. That when you do go support the different brands you're supporting, it's not the same as going, look, it's important to support the brands you want to support in everything you buy. But in cannabis, we're talking about the burgeoning of an industry. So when you take that dollar, it is amplified that much more. And so when you intentionally choose to buy something, you're also saying, I want to historically support this business to succeed in this cutthroat market right now. And so your dollar goes way further. So don't think that it doesn't matter. 100% absolutely does. So thank you for bringing that into the conversation here today. So I have one last kind of round of questions for each of you here pretty much. I'm going to tee it up by saying that we've been doing this equity workshop tour around the country, and one of the conversations we've had is about marketing. And we've brought in folks that have had cannabis businesses for like 10 years, 12 years, something along these lines, right? And we've asked them to present on, marketing. How do you do successful marketing? And each time I've been the first time I was definitely expecting, and then after that my expectations shifted. I was expecting it to be a conversation about, okay, here's how you skirt, Instagram's rules. Here's how you, post things. Here's how you do events, all that kind of stuff, right? No. The conversation was 100% each time about marketing through your community, through community building. That the businesses that actually figured it out, you mentioned lean. Women businesses running lean, minority businesses running lean, right? Indigenous businesses running lean. Like businesses running lean, this is actually the key to success in this industry. In order to run lean, you need to tap into your community. And that's how you actually build a whole marketing system and network. So with that in mind, I'd love to hear what you all have to say about the things that you're seeing or that you're doing or that you're visioning as far as how to connect community and marketing and business success. So I'm going to start down here this time with Christine.
Well, in the development of the Island Pezi brand, we definitely reflected a lot on Indigenous values and on Dakota values that reflect the Prairie Island Indian community. Even our colors come from beadwork. Our imagery and our terpene references are all animals that are important to the culture. So we do really try to bring a lot of that influence into our marketing and branding, and we really feel that people respond to it, and it's approachable, and people really just connect with what we're trying to put forward. So we're going to keep doing that.
Thank you. So I'll talk on two fronts. So like for me personally, with my personal company, with MiSotaEssence being a Latino owned, we bring a lot of culture with it. We bring in experiences, we bring that to people. But then we also tap in with our community. We tap in with different spaces. So the beginning of September, we were invited to LeaderCon, which is showcasing with all different Latino businesses and just really leaders in the industry in here in Minnesota, and just seeing how we can continue to build bridges that are not just in cannabis, and figuring out how to normalize it, and that is also building that community. And then when we talk about the women and building marketing and community within that, what I really love, and this is really simple, right? And this is through social media, but even collaborating on posts, because you never know how big your reach is, and learning to really figuring that out and learning to use small resources to really make really impactful ways of reaching people, and then creating experiences, getting out, meeting people.
I kind of forgot the question.
Oh, good. I got lost in what these ladies were saying here too. It was amazing stuff. And now I want to go look at the Island Pezi designs and compare to what you're talking about. I got to see a couple of shots of pictures of the event that you were talking about, and it was brilliant. It was amazing. So Marcus, the question is, understanding that social equity businesses are going to be naturally, for the most part, running pretty lean. And also, I'm going to say this again too, though. The lean conversation. So we did a workshop, and we had bankers there. And the bankers talked about how the businesses that were the most successful over the last decade in Washington State were the ones that ran lean and didn't get investment. The ones that started with a little bit of cash and kept it lean and kept going and just stacking and going. And that actually the ones that failed a lot of times were the ones that then got a cash infusion and then just went sideways. They stopped running lean. They thought they could just spend money now. And so tying that in here with the fact that okay, so we have social equity businesses, as you mentioned, capital is hard to come by. A lot of companies are gonna have to run lean, but tapping into community for that marketing piece, so you're not spending a fortune on marketing that might not be as effective, but leaning into your community as something that can be sustainable marketing. What are things that you're thinking about or that you're looking to do with the Cannabis College, with the brands that you're helping build, that are rooted in community and marketing and tying that together for business success?
Well, for my own business, we just plan to like really provide exemplary customer service. We plan to treat people more valuable than the product that they're coming to purchase. And so one customer at a time, we're just going to build trust, and we're going to, have these standards that reflect our real values. Because you can't really add value long term for any consumer or any market if your business doesn't have value. So, like our business, we're going to practice sacred commerce. So it's going to be, it's going to take some time to build up the momentum. When are we going to have enough supply in this market? At the end of 2027? So it's going to be, we're going to have to run lean, but yeah, it's about really tapping into the relationships with the customer. And the other entrepreneurs that we're working with.
Absolutely. So I love that. Again, what did you say? You said valuing the consumer, the customer, the client, more than the money to bring in the door, more than the product that you're selling. I love that. Right? And this is what I'm talking about. The people that we had, I'm going to tell you right now, one of the women, she's got a dispensary for 10 years in Vegas, right? So they're competing against the likes of Planet 13 and all that kind of jazz, right? And she said very distinctly, she said almost not word for word, but almost exactly what you just said. That's what's kept her in business for 10 years and thriving still, right? So spot on, man. I love that. Just gem after gem up here today. So that's what happens when you bring intentionality together with trailblazers, right? I think, let me see what we're doing. Okay, yep, we're about getting close to time, which I think means that Warren G is coming on soon, right? We got a little bit of time before that. And I think after this, we're going to have, I want to say Bob is coming up here in a little bit, right? And Bob is another person that, if you get a chance to listen to Bob talk, Bob has a gem after gem to drop as well. Interesting, very, great guy, a lot of interesting things to say. With that said, just to wrap things up here today, we've covered a lot, right? We've been talking about community, we've been talking about, but again, not just in an ethereal way, but the actual brass tacks of how rubber hits the road and how we bring community into the forefront, right, for real. With that said, what's one more thing you just would like everybody here to be left with today? What's your final thought here today? And I'm going to frame this against the backdrop of getting high together for the next few hours, right, in this amazing space out here together. What do you want to see here the rest of the day? What do you want people to walk away with here knowing and thinking today in this beautiful legacy cup that we're here at?
I just want people to know the tribal market exists. There's still people who don't realize we're open, who don't realize that there are tribal dispensaries open around the state, and I just want people to know that we're out here and we're proud, and come and check us out.
I love that. For us, thank you for being here. Thank you for showing the fuck up. And really, check out the women. Check out different spaces that may make you feel a little uncomfortable. I don't know. We have a really cool quest going on where you're checking out the women in cannabis, and so you're able to see what's out there and see the different diversity in here, because there's not a lot of us. There's not a lot of women, but it's important to be intentional on how you support, again. And that is one way.
If you've been listening, thank you for your attention. You could have been anywhere in this festival, and you chose to be right here. So we appreciate your presence. I would just say, be kind, period. Be kind to yourself, be kind to everybody you see. Because everybody's going through some shit, you never know. So your little act of kindness could lift somebody's spirit up. So just be kind, period. Peace.
That's a beautiful way to close things out today. Thank you everybody here for being here today. Thank you again, Minnesota Craft Cannabis Guild, Gislin. I saw Jude over there. Thank you everybody here for being here today. Thank you so much, and thank you our wonderful speakers with just gem after gem, doing amazing work in the community. Thank you so much here today. Thank you.
I'd just like to say thank you, Mike. Thank you for everything that you're doing also in our community and what you're bringing to ours. Because you're bringing outside people, national, right? And you're helping educate us. And you're doing it with intention. And I appreciate everything that you're doing. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah. thank you for coming and blessing our state. You know, this is your home away from home. Yeah, thank you for building community here in Minnesota. Respect.
Thank you so much. Love you guys. Awesome.